Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Yedivadadani Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanam Chadi Jamunatira Vanam Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopinjana Balabha Girivara Dhari Girivara Dhari Gopinjana Balabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Parivirikacharya Astatarasata Sri Mada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gora Premanandi. Given the audience this evening, I get to continue. We were with some newer people today, and little small children. So we just had to tell stories. the Damodara Lila story. But what I've been doing, I think for this group here, I can continue. Since the Purnima last Sunday, 1 week ago, the month of Kartik began. And no. Thanks, but no thanks. It's a COVID. Who knows what's over there? And so thank you. The Damodar pastime is honored for the month of Damodar throughout ISKCON. Even during Krishna's time, the month of Kartik was a whole month of festival. We heard this nice story, a description from Jiva Goswami. You like hearing stories that you haven't heard before, right? Here's one you haven't heard before. Radharani bound Krishna around the waist. Here's the description. During Kartik month, there was a festival at the home of Nanda and Yashoda. And it was overseen by Purnamasi. You know who is Purnamasi? Purnamasi is Yogamaya personified in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Her name is Purnamasi. Purnamasi was the mother of Sandipani Muni. You know who is Sandipani Muni, right? When Krishna went to school, who was his school teacher? When Krishna left Vrindavan, Akrura took Krishna from Vrindavan to Mathura, and Krishna killed Kamsa, right? And then he freed Vasudeva and Devaki from prison. Mother and father seeing their son after 12 years. And they were in anxiety. He hasn't even gone to school yet. 12 years old. So they had his Upanayana performed, which was done by Gargamuni. Gargamuni, you know his name. And then Krishna decided what school he wanted to go to. There's some detail. He went to the school of Sandipani Muni. So if you think about the geography of where is Mathura in relation to Delhi, or then Hastinapur, Vrindavan, way over here in Maharashtra is the place where Sandipani Muni had his school, near today's Ujjain. You've heard of that place? Your father has, but I'm trying to keep his attention here. Ujjain, it's in Maharashtra. What's the city that's not so far away? Big city. East of... East... Jaipur is in Rajasthan. Huh? The place where Jagatananda lives. Indore. There we go. Thank you. Indore? You don't know geography of India. Okay. It's a long ways away from where he was, where his mother and father were. So his school teacher was named Sandipani Muni. And Sandipani Muni, so he was a Brahmana teacher. And his mother was Purnamasi. And his son, Sandipani Muni's son, was named Madhu Mangal. You've heard his name. in Krishna's pastimes, his childhood pastimes, Madhu Mangal. He's the Brahmin friend of Krishna, and all his other friends were cowherd boys. But Madhu Mangal was funny. I mean, he had a good sense of humor, and he was the Brahmin amongst the cowherd boys. But he was the son of Sandipani Muni, who became his teacher, Krishna's teacher. And Purnamasi is Yogamaya. Her function, Yogamaya, her function is to arrange Krishna's pastimes. That's what Yogamaya does. So that's what she did. So Purnamasi was overseeing a festival at their home during the Kartik month. So Krishna was supposed to meet Radharani, but he was late. And when Krishna came late, she looked at him very angry. She shook her finger at him and she scolded him, and she took a cloth that was around her waist and she tied it around Krishna's waist, punishing him for being late. She was scolding him. And this is described in Vavishya Purana. Jiva Goswami narrates what's in Vavishya Purana. And Krishna was very pleased. This is wonderful, what you've just done. From this day forward, my name, Damodara. Damo refers to the waist, and Udara means going around the waist. Damodara will now have a special meaning for me because of this pastime of your tying me up around my waist with your rope. And later, in my earthly pastimes, I'll perform a similar pastime with Mother Jasoda. She will bind me. And anyone who calls this name, Damodar, will achieve my eternal abode and be filled with spiritual happiness. So we do this for a whole month, not for that reason, but it's Radha Damodar, and our pastime in the Bhagavatam is Yasoda Damodar. Yasoda binds Krishna. But another pastime, Jiva Goswami narrates in his Sandarbhas, Priti Sandarbha, he mentions. So the Damodar pastime is very special. We celebrate for a whole month. And just to get into this evening's topic, there's many nice things about this pastime that makes it so celebrated for the whole month. One of them especially is the intensity of the love of Jasoda. The intensity of the love of Jasoda is so great that she can catch Krishna, although yogis with years and years and lifetimes of austerities and meditation, they try to capture Krishna within their heart, but she captures him from behind and she ties him up with a rope. It's described something similar about the cowherd boys that comes up later in chapter 12. This is chapter 9. But the cowherd boys are so fortunate that the yogis doing their meditation, lifetimes of meditation and austerity, they cannot even touch a particle of dust from his lotus feet. But the cowherd boys are playing with him all day long, every day. The Gyanis who are seeking the happiness of Brahmasukh, they get some aspect of Krishna's presence. The devotees, Dasya Bhaktas, they see see him as the Supreme Lord and worship him. Ordinary people They see him as an ordinary person, a worldly people. But the cowherd boys, they're with him all day long, playing, wrestling, jumping, doing mischievous things together in a very playful mood. There's different divisions of friendship amongst those who have a friendly relationship with Krishna. And the cowherd boys are called sakhas, which means they just play. So they're very fortunate. And Mother Jasoda is very fortunate. So that's the one of the main themes of this whole chapter. Her love is so strong. She can catch Krishna. She can bind Krishna. Seeing her in this motherly mood, Krishna's expecting, because he did something naughty, he's expecting to be punished or admonished at least. And he's crying, and his body is, the Damodara song, his whole body is trembling. His shark-shaped earrings are moving to and fro. He's crying out of fear of the little stick lati in Mother Jasoda's hand. She throws it away. So those are the verses leading up to where we are this evening. This evening is Canto 10, Chapter 9, text 13 through 14. And in these verses, it's describing Krishna Tattva, truths about Krishna. And the transcendental nature, the emphasis is going to the transcendental nature of Krishna. We know from Bhagavad Gita, this group, we can easily talk about Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita. Do you know some slokas from Bhagavad Gita? Do you know the Janma Karma Chame Divyam verse? Evam Yoveti Tattvataha. You know that one? Janma Karma Chame Divyam. You know? Say. In the verse, Krishna is saying, Janma, you know the meaning, birth, Janmashtami. Karma, you know the meaning. Janma karma. Cha, may, divyam. Those who know the divyam or transcendental nature of my janma and karma, my appearance and activities. Those who know that transcendental nature, my appearance and activities. Purnar janma na. No more birth and death. The cycle of birth and death is broken. And mameti, they come to me. So it's very precious understanding to know the transcendental nature of Krishna. This verse is diving into the transcendental nature of Krishna. Krishna's form, Krishna's name, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's associates, Krishna's abode. And even to understand what transcendental means, that's a little bit like definition by negation, which is not complete. Well, it's not within this world. It's not within time. Time and space just don't touch it. It is beyond. However, that's definition by negation. So what is the nature of transcendence besides by definition by negation? So this is describing Krishna's form that's transcendental. That same Bhagavad Gita verse. It's a good verse to remember. Janma karma chame divyam. So here's the text, and we'll go to the commentaries. The Supreme Personality Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he's all-pervading. He's all-pervading, but he has a form. Because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there's no difference between past, present, and future. That's a nice topic. Time. Because activities take time. You have to do some homework. You can't just sit down and say, homework, and it's done. It takes some time. Or cooking in the kitchen. It takes some time. Or going to the office, or whatever one's life is made up of. Walking across the room, it takes some time. For Krishna, it doesn't take time. He has activities that are not within the boundaries of time. That's transcendental. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times. Being absolute, beyond relativity, he is free from distinctions between cause and effect. Like everything of this world, is an effect of some cause, and that cause is the effect of some prior cause. Cause and effect. It's called technology or engineering. Cause and effect. But for Krishna, he's beyond cause and effect. He's free from all distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. It's a mystery. That unmanifested person who is beyond the perception of the senses has now appeared. As a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. That's the verse we've been discussing for several classes now from the commentary. The summary essence of all of this is Krishna's form is transcendental, his name is transcendental, his qualities are transcendental. And what does that mean? That's what's being described. Here's a reference from Brahma's Prayers, chapter 14 of Canto 10, Brahma Vimohan Lila. Brahma stole the calves and cowherd boys, put them in a cave. He came back and he saw Krishna manifest what Krishna manifested. Then he offered prayers. So it's from that Prayers, chapter 14. Therefore, this entire universe, which is like a dream, is by nature unreal, nevertheless appears real. And thus it covers one's consciousness and assails one with repeated miseries. This universe appears real because, this is a good explanation, why does it appear real? Because it is manifested by the potency of illusion emanating from you, whose unlimited transcendental forms are full of eternal happiness and knowledge, the transcendental nature of Krishna's form. And then the commentary goes to Rig Veda that says the name is also transcendental. Here's the Rig Veda quote. Om Asya Jananto Nama Vid Viktana. You know who the name of the Lord is spiritual. You who know the name of the Lord is spiritual should chant it. The name of the Lord is spiritual, eternal, or transcendental, beyond the touch of material sound. The present tense in the following verse indicates the names are eternal. This is from Gargamuni, one who gave the name-giving ceremony for Krishna. Yeah, chapter 8, Canto 10. For this son of yours, O Nanda Maharaj, there are many forms and names according to his transcendental qualities and activities. These are known to me, but people in general do not understand them. also from Padma Purana. The Lord is said to be without material name, form, and action, according to the Vedas and Smriti scriptures. And the summarized meaning is found in this other literature called Vasudeva Adhyatma. Quote, because his qualities are extraordinary, the Lord is said to be without name. Because he does not have a material form, he is said to be without form. Because he has no relation to matter, the Lord, the doer, the ancient sages say, is without actions. And it gives the Sanskrit for that text. I won't repeat the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit means that the deity form of the Lord, the deity forms of the Lord, are for the purpose of worshippers perfecting the worship. Those forms may be made of stone, wood, or metal, in the form of Ramakrishna and others. It does not mean the spiritual forms are assumed by Brahman only for worshippers. So we interrupted our discussion this morning because it was getting really long. That's just a continuation of some commentary from Jiva Goswami. Here comes another one, where it makes reference to our evening's verse here. It's found in, this is spoken by it's spoken by Vasudeva in the prison house just after Krishna was born. When Krishna was born, he showed his four-armed Vishnu form, or Narayan form, and Vasudeva is offering prayers. Just as you created the universe made of the three gunas and entered it, so you seem to have entered Devaki as her son by your inconceivable energy, yet you have not entered. Commentary reads, in order to hide the fact that the Lord has become his son, in 4 verses, out of humility, Vasudeva indicates that the Lord does not enter the world, even though contrary statements have already been made, such as the previous chapters, the prayers of the demigods to Krishna, still within the womb of Devaki. One of those prayers reads, Devaki then kept within herself the Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes, the foundation of the entire cosmos. Or in that same chapter 2, O Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Lord, with all his plenary portions, such as Baladev, is now within your womb. Because you are pervading everywhere, you make an appearance, but you do not enter. Or the real meaning is, I have attained you as the Lord and also as my son. That's Vasudeva. So you appeared as if in the womb of Devaki, and this way you'll become my son, but I will also achieve you as my Lord and Master by your presence. Vasudeva continues, according to my previous stated realizations that you are Swayam Bhagavan, because of this, you do not enter matter. It is impossible. Then he explains, you do not enter means it has the sense of it's unbearable. And he gives some Sanskrit rule, as in the verb paraji, which means to conquer or to find unbearable. Then gives some rule from Panini teachings. In spite of this, it's unbearable for you. You have certainly entered the womb of Devaki because of your nature. What's that nature? You are controlled by prema. And because you have inconceivable shakti, sva prakritya. When we were discussing in the morning class about the seeming contradictions within Krishna, or the source of everything. Contradictions. Like in Ishopanishad, he walks and he does not walk. He's very near, he's very far away as well. He's within everything, but he's not within everything. I call it Upanishadic double talk. It's that the Upanishads are filled with it. And so there's the material side, and he's not the material side, he's the spiritual side. But even the appearance of the material side comes from him. It's his illusory potency, but he's not part of the illusory potency. He's the real thing. The illusory potency is a reflection of the real thing. And it's all resting upon his energies. He can be bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest at the same time. Imagine something can become really big or something can become really small, but both at the same time. He's within every atom, the smallest paramanu, the smallest particle of matter. The English word is atom. There's smaller subparticles of atoms, but in any case, paramanu means the smallest material particle, and Krishna is within that. At the same time, he's the source of the universes, Mahavishnu. But his expansion enters within every atom, within every part of every universe. So at the same time, bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest. So there's, and we went through a number of them. Viram aviram, ugram anugram. He's fierce, but he's also very gentle. And all those are qualities within him, because he's the source of everything. And this is made possible, we heard this morning, by his inconceivable potencies. Unlimited. So sometimes he extends this potency, and then he withdraws it. Sometimes that potency, and then he withdraws it. Sometimes multiple potencies, and then he withdraws them. And he's in charge of the potencies. But he doesn't have to work. He doesn't have to do anything other than have a desire. You can't just sit down and say, okay, I desire to finish my homework. And voila. Your homework is done. You get an A. It doesn't work like that. We have to prayasa, we have to make some endeavor. But for Krishna, he doesn't have to make any endeavor. His potencies do everything. And they do even contradictory things, and that's not a problem for him either, because he has potencies that are some of this and some of that and everything. Part of the mystery, part of understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna's janma and karma. An example is given. Good example, too. Previously, as Mahavishnu, you created the universe, or universes, of three gunas. And then, as Garbhodakshai, Vishnu, you entered into the universe, or each universe. Though this is not completely applicable to the present situation, since you entered the universe, why can you not enter Devaki's womb? Although you entered the universe because of the bhakti of Brahma and others, this cannot be prema, since the universe is gross matter. And you do not touch the universe, since it is made of the three gunas. Thus you are indifferent to it. And he's not indifferent to Devaki. Thus, although you have entered, it is as if you did not enter. This is proper, since matter is opposite to your nature. My case is similar. This is now Vasudeva reasoning with Krishna. I attained you as my son, since you entered Devaki's womb in your spiritual form. At the same time, you have not entered, but seemed to have entered her. As you have entered elsewhere, like entered the universe, in that manner you have done it in this case also. Bhavatsya. It is said, this is our Damodara Lila verse, Na Chantar Na Bahir, you're not within and you're not without, Antar and Bahir. Yasya Na Purvam Na Api Chaparam, which means the Lord is not inside or outside and does not have past or future. It's philosophy, but it's understanding the nature of Krishna, Krishna's divyam position, his appearance and his activities. Though you are the supreme truth, you show your form within a small area because of prema for your devotees. He's everywhere, but he shows a human form. He's everywhere. That's like, I'm going to pick on you again. You know the story of Prahlad, right? And when Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad, where is Vishnu? What did Prahlad say? He's everywhere. And what did Hiranyakashipu say to that? Is he in this pillar? Well, he's everywhere. He's in the pillar. So he struck the pillar with his fist or his sword, different versions. And then Lord Nrsimhadev came roaring out of the pillar. So he's everywhere. He's not only in the pillar, he's everywhere. So he who is everywhere takes a human-like form. Looks like a little boy. That sounds like contradictory. Yes, he's everywhere and he has a form, because form seems like it's limiting. And everywhere is everywhere without form. How can you have a form that's everywhere and have a human size? And those contradictory statements, apparently contradictory statements, are not contradictory because they're manifest by Krishna's potencies. He has his Vishnu, his Paramatma feature, and he has his Bhagavan feature. And it's the same entity. Different features or aspects of the same entity. So he's both. Everywhere and in his Bhagavan feature. At the same time. No problem. Though you are the supreme truth, you show your form within a small area because of prema for your devotees, and by that you give them bliss. Even those who experience Brahman, the impersonal Brahman, derive bliss from this form. That is to say, the Brahma Jyoti, the light of Brahman, is emanating from the body or form of Krishna. That's his effulgence, the rays. Then the final paragraph of that section. The only cause is your inconceivable Shakti, which acts like a jewel or a mantra or a special herb. Like inexplicable, mysterious. Because of that Shakti, instigated by your devotees' prema, you enter Devaki's womb while absorbed in bliss, engaging in pastimes like a human, acting like her son. Thus, the Lord fulfilled his promise to his devotee. His devotee is Vasudeva and Devaki underwent austerities, and they wanted Vishnu as their son, so he's fulfilled his promise. I'll come as your son. in reciprocation with their prema, their love, parental affection. It should be remembered that Devaki did austerities even in this life to gain the Lord as her son. Now she attained him. This is mentioned in Vishnu Damodara. Here's another reference from the same chapter, 3:10:3. This is Vasudeva and Devaki offering their prayers. That form, here's the translation, text 24. That form which they say is invisible, the cause of all causes, the greatest, self-manifesting, without qualities, without change, pure existence, without variety, and without action, is directly you, the Supreme Lord, who manifests our intelligence. He's enlightened, and he's describing what he's seeing, the form of the Lord. Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary to this verse, the word avyakta means not visible to anyone. So not visible to anyone, he became visible to Vasudeva and Devaki as his pastime. We read in the morning session, it takes special shakti or empowerment from Krishna to see him. The yogis to see him, and they're engaged in meditation, it's not just by their concentrated mind. It's a shakti that Supreme Lord allows them to see him within their heart. Or when Krishna performs his pastimes, he goes from the unmanifest to the manifest state. His eternal pastimes are made visible to the world. Even, bad people, even Kamsa and the washerman and Shishupal and bad people, they can see him. How? By Krishna's Shakti, they can see him, and otherwise they can't. That's the meaning. So now comes a series of questions and answers, all in response to this description of Krishna's form that Vasudeva's seeing. Question: is it not possible that an object is invisible to everyone? It's a statement. It is not possible that an object that exists is invisible to everyone. Response: you, Krishna, are the cause of everything. This means that you are visible in the effects. It's like we can't see an electron, but we see the effect of electricity. Electronics is an industry. But who's seen an electron? But you see the effect of electrons by their presence by their effects. The small flame does not reveal or burn fire. That's a metaphor to use to explain you can't use something material to see Krishna. If Krishna reveals himself, then he can be seen. That which is invisible to everyone, how do you even know that it exists? Because it reveals that Krishna reveals himself to some. That's the explanation. Doubt. But all the atoms are visible and are causes. Your definition is not exclusive. Reply: this idea is rejected. No, you are Krishna. This is Krishna speaking to Vasudeva. All the atoms are invisible and are also causes. Your definition, that is, that which is invisible to everyone, is not exclusive. Some people can see. Answer: this idea is rejected. Vasudeva to Krishna. You are Brahman, the greatest, whereas the collection of atoms of air is not great. He's the cause of material creation. So his presence can be seen by the effect, the creation. There's the cause and there's the effect. Anyway, this is the logic of a scholar. And it's defining the nature of transcendence, or the form of Krishna. Wait a minute. Pradhan has the qualities of being invisible. It is the cause and spreads everywhere. What's Pradhan? Pradhan is the sum total of the material energy before it manifests. Pradhan is the unmanifest state of the totality of the material energy, undifferentiated state. It's material nature, prakriti, but in an unmanifest, undifferentiated state. Pradhan. Pradhan's not visible. And yet it is the cause. And Pradhan, spreads everywhere. When creation comes, Pradhan becomes material creation, prakriti. No, Krishna, you are self-manifesting. Jyoti. The word Jyoti means a conscious entity. That's you. Whereas Pradhan is devoid of consciousness and is revealed by consciousness. I mean, there's a couch over here, and it exists, but we don't understand it exists without consciousness. No, consciousness is working through sensory apparatus, etc., but it's not that it doesn't exist because you don't see it, but you know that it exists because of consciousness. So the whole of the material creation in its manifest and unmanifest state. It's Krishna's energy. We're aware of it because of Krishna. Whether manifest, unmanifest. And Krishna's that place of consciousness. He's the all-pervasive knower, like it's described in chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita. Here's a definition from Vedanta Sutra. Light refers to Brahman, since he, Brahman, is described as having 4 feet. What's that? There's the 3/4, 1/4. In Purusha Sukta, the Rig Veda mantras glorifying the Purusha, it describes that 3/4 of the creation is the spiritual world, 1/4 is in the material world. You're familiar with that, right? No? Yes? Yes. Purusha Sukta, celebrated prayers from Rig Veda. It's the prayers that Brahma offered to Vishnu, appealing for Vishnu to appear. So Krishna agreed, yes, I'll appear. Krishna appeared. Purusha Sukta, elevated standard Rig mantra prayers, Rig Veda prayers. So there it's speaking of the 3/4, 1/4. That makes 4. 3 + 1 is 4. So the Vedanta Sutra also speaks of the 4. And Brahman has these 4 features, 3/4, 1/4. And there's different nomenclature for Brahman. There's Mahad Brahman, that's the 1/4 portion. Mahad Brahman is the 1/4 portion. It's material nature. And there's the non-dual Brahman. That's the 3/4 portion. But it's all Brahman. And there's Parabrahman, the source of Brahman. Parabrahman. The 1/4 portion is resting in the light of the 3/4 portion. The material world, the whole material, Pradhan, going back to that term, Pradhan is like a cloud in the sky, and then there's the sky. So the cloud is resting in the sky, isn't it? And on below the cloud and above the cloud is sky. What's in the middle of the cloud? It's also sky. It's just there's something else it's water vapor that is in the condition, at that moment at least, of a cloud. So that's what pradhan is. It's the 1/4 portion. That's within the 3/4 portion. And they're both resting in Krishna. A little technical, but it's part of understanding Krishna Tattva. Well, Vasudeva wonders, consciousness arises from contact with knowledge. Now, here's an atheistic school, the Vaisheshikas. They say the soul is essentially unconscious. For arousal of knowledge, which is part of Sattva Gun, then it becomes conscious. Is Brahman like that? Answer, no. Brahman is nirguna, without qualities. Is Brahma a transformation of the qualities, as the Mimamsaka philosophy? No. Mimamsaka is the argument that it's the karma mimamsa philosophy. You know that philosophy? When Krishna wanted to, he asked Nanda Maharaj, this is the Govardhan Lila. He asked Nanda Maharaj, what is this festival? Is this something that's a family tradition, or is it enjoined in the Vedas? And if it's enjoined in the Vedas, then one must know the purpose, because if you do something, even if it's enjoined in the Vedas, you don't know the purpose, you don't get the full benefit. So please explain. You're my father, it's your duty, and in the family we don't hold secrets, so please tell me. And his father said, Nanda said to Krishna, this is we're worshipping Indra because we're cowherds, we're dependent upon rain, and this season we've received plentiful rain, we had nice crops, we have nice everything, so we're offering back to Indra because he's provided nice rain, Indra Yagya. And then Krishna spoke this atheistic philosophy. There's a Karma Mimamsa is an atheistic philosophy. Karma Mimamsa says, whether there's God or not, it really doesn't matter. You can believe there's God, that's okay. You can believe there's not God, that's okay. Because even if there's God, there's something above God. And that's karma. Because God just dispenses according to your karma. He's ruled by the laws of karma, so just do good karma. You don't need this worship. And that Indra got angry. They stopped the Indra Yagya. And so Krishna spoke atheistic philosophy to his father, pretty far out. That means it was existing even at the time Krishna was performing his pastimes. He knew it. He wasn't advocating it. He just used it to get his father to stop the Indra Yagya because he wanted to agitate Indra, have his pride become too much and then curb his pride. Krishna had a plan for Indra. But he so stopped the Indra Yagya and said, worship Govardhan. He gave that argument and his father said, okay, we'll worship Govardhan. And Krishna explained how to worship Govardhan. So that's what they did. So this Mimamsaka philosophy is an atheistic philosophy that says, basically, it's an atheistic, there is no God. Or if there is, he's not really God, he's just dispensing laws of karma, because karma is God. That's in charge of everything, the laws of karma. So do good karma, and you'll get good results. So the question being raised here is Brahman a transformation of the gunas as in Mimamsaka philosophy? So the Mimamsaka philosophy says it's the The gunas, the karmic laws of the modes of nature, that's supreme. And what when we read in the Vedas about Brahman, it's just a transformation of all that. Is that what Brahman is? And the answer is no, because Brahman is without change. Nirvikaram is the Sanskrit word. Vikara is transformation. Nirvikara is without transformation. Brahman is unchanging. Krishna's body is unchanging. The spiritual effulgence, everything here is changing. Anything not changing? Even coronavirus will go away eventually. Everything is changing. Does Brahman transform? Question. Caused by discharge of Shakti in the form of knowledge and action, in the form of another misinterpretation of the Vedas called Bhaskara. No. Brahman is existence alone. Sata matram. The word sat means that substance is its essence. That Brahman is also known as Sat, the Sat feature. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He was asking earlier today. Sat means the existential feature of the absolute truth. Sat is another way of saying Brahman. So Sat or Brahman means it's the substance. Substance is the essence of Brahman or Sat. Brahman is that manifestation of substance alone. It is without transformation. In a joking mood, Sridhar Swami then asks, all this is commentary from Sridhar Swami, really? Is it a combination of all general characteristics? Brahman, kind of like, homogenized everything. This and that and the other thing, and you put it in a blender and turn it on high speed and it comes out Brahman. And so Brahman is, things come out of Brahman because Brahman is just homogenized everything. He's saying this jokingly. Since Brahma is the basis of everything, then that's what Brahman is. Since it cannot be described by the previous terms, it must be a combination of all of them, like combining words together. For example, Hasti Snan. Hasti Snan, washing an elephant. Snan means taking a bath. Hasti means elephant. Hasti Snan. So, what's a Hasti Snan? Elephants go into a lake or a river or body of water, cleanse themselves, go to the shore with their trunk, then they throw dust all over their body. That's Hasti Snan. No. Brahman is without particular qualities. Nirvishesham. Some samanya, this combination of everything, depends on qualities. Even you mix them, it's qualities mixed. But Krishna doesn't have material qualities. Because of qualities, the samanya form does not exist at all times in the past, present, and future. Therefore, that which is conscious, that's Krishna. Krishna's form is always conscious, which can be described in words with true meaning, is called sata. Since it reveals all the qualities mentioned, it is called conscious because it is self-revealing. Uh-oh. Here comes another doubt. What's that? Is it full of disturbance because it is the cause? Because if it's the cause, then it's just disturbance is one of the things that's the effect. And is it full of disturbance? No, it's without action. Because disturbance or pleasure, pain, in the material sense, is a transformation of something, a transformation of state. No, it's without action. This means that the Lord is the cause by proximity, by his inconceivable Shakti arising from his Swarup. So that's interesting exercise Sridhar Swami took us through. The special meaning is this. We're wanting to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's form and activities. The special meaning is this. If we analyze things in detail, finally, the whole universe is nothing but Brahman. Why are there any qualities at all? Answer. Oh, Krishna, you are directly Vishnu. You are not covered by Maya, therefore you are manifested with 6 special qualities, Bhagavan qualities. Transformations of mercy, possessing limbs and other bodily features, with graceful movements of hands and feet, a wealth of good qualities. One should consult the Bhagavat Sandarbha for establishment of the Lord's qualities in his form, according to the philosophy of Ramanuja. This is really high level. I hope you don't mind. I shared this expression this morning. Over here you have some ghee wicks. But before it was ghee wicks, it was a ball of cotton and some ghee. And to make the ghee wick, you put a little ghee with the cotton and twisted and turned it, and it became a ghee wick. Supposing you did it the other way. And you just started pulling apart the strands or fibers of cotton. You can still make a ghee wick, but when the cotton ball, it's just little strands or little fibers of cotton. So what this is doing is taking Krishna's form as transcendental and pulling it, and here's a strand here, and here's a strand here, and then putting it back together, and there's Krishna's form. And then you're taking that and offering that appreciation to Krishna, like making a ghee wick and offering it to Damodar. So maybe somebody isn't really interested in all the strands, they just want to make ghee wicks, and that's okay too. Just take and make the offering to Damodar. But the Bhagavatam is encouraging us to understand the details, the strands, the different features and aspects of Krishna's transcendence. And is it this? No. Is it that? No. Is it something else? No. What is it? Here's what it is. I'm thinking of some of our devotee girls. They don't know how to cook. I know some girls, devotee girls, that got married, and they didn't know anything about cooking. And they were like, uh-oh. But when you're learning cooking, it's not just a little this, a little that, and close your eyes, and it comes out nice. There's refinement in making something come out nice. So making offerings to Krishna also has an element. It's enhanced by understanding the subtleties and details of who Krishna really is. So when you're making the offering, the consciousness is more complete of who it is that you're offering unto and why. Say the same thing in a different way. It's sufficient just chant Hare Krishna. You have to understand all this stuff. However, when you hear the Bhagavatam side by side with chanting Hare Krishna, then it makes whose name you're chanting more clear. And as you go more deeply into the Bhagavatam's message, there's refinements and details. It's a difference of just cooking a sabji, and it's something that it's really nice because you really invested a lot of attention to the details of how. And here's a little Prabhupada story that I learned about 3 months ago. It comes from Mother Jamuna about cooking. She wrote a cookbook that was an award-winning cookbook, a vegetarian cookbook, but she learned from Prabhupada. So she tells the story that one time she found in a shop some really, really special, it has an adjective, kind of wheat. Real special kind of wheat. Kind of like, basmati rice, and then there's grades of basmati rice. So she found this special quality of wheat. She brought it home or to the temple. She personally ground the wheat into flour. She made the flour into chapatis. She offered to Krishna and served the chapatis to Prabhupada. Prabhupada broke off a little corner of the chapati, put it on the tip of his tongue, chewed it, and identified the particular kind of wheat that it was made from, and said if you left it on the stove for another 2 seconds, it would be better. No, mother wasn't completely cooked. That's an example of refinement of taste. And Prabhupada did everything with such refinement. He was conscious of music. I just heard another Prabhupada story just today, a little Prabhupada memories. It was the wife of one of Prabhupada's GBC members. She was saying that Prabhupada was doing some recording in the Bhaktivedanta Manor. They had a little recording studio, and her husband was invited to come, and he was playing kartals, and Prabhupada stopped and said, "You're not playing properly." He had the kartals given to somebody else. And on the one hand, he could be with hippies, where they're doing whatever hippies do with their musical instruments, and appreciate it. But he also had a very refined ear for music, very subtle. If you listen carefully to his singing bhajans, just listen carefully, just listen carefully to the harmonium keys. It's really subtle. His hearing, his tasting, his senses were very, very purified. And his delivery of the message was also for everybody, but there are points, if you listen carefully, the subtle points. Now I'm going through Jiva Goswami, who's a super scholar. Prabhupada has quoted, there's a very I forget his name, very celebrated scholar who made some public statement somewhere during Prabhupada's youth, saying that in the history of the world, there's not been a scholar equal to Jiva Goswami. So we're reading from his commentary. And it's way up there. But it's refinement. And even if we pick up on something, at least it pick up on the principle. Wow, Jiva Goswami is up there. And he really understands the subject matter that we can't understand because he's too up there for us. He was writing for an audience that's not us. He was writing for an audience that's super scholars and helping the super scholars understand refinements. But the essence of the message is Krishna is fully transcendental. And he could take on anybody and help them understand the transcendental nature of Krishna. So why are we reading this? Krishna is transcendental. The binding of Krishna by Mother Jasoda was a transcendental event. So to understand the form of Krishna that Jasoda was binding, we're getting some picture of the transcendentalness. So how can you take something material like a rope and put it around something transcendental? You can't. But she did. And she did on the strength of her love. And so Krishna permitted that which you can't do to be done. We'll carry on. There's more. Adyam means without birth. That form, revealed as a reflection to the Gyanis, Brahman, by negating faulty qualities, not this, which are seen in the material realm, is actually the form of Vishnu. You are that form, and you do not have the qualities of matter, since faults cannot be seen in you, because the false concepts are refuted by scriptures, which are realized by the learned. The Lord also personally refutes these false conceptions. By appearing directly in Devaki's womb, Krishna refutes the idea that the Lord is unborn. He's born. He's unborn and he's born. So there. He refutes the idea that qualities limit God by appearing with his form, decorated with ornaments. As well, Vishnu in the verse means all-pervading. Yashoda and others make many statements like na chantar na bahir yasya. That's text. That's our evening text. 10, 19, 13. He has no inside and outside. He has no past, present, and future. He's transcendental. His form. What form exists beyond time? I mean, just take birth. It's an event, and when it's over, it's over. What's birth? It's eternal. Birth is an event, but Krishna's birth is eternal. That's explained by Jiva Goswami. It's really far out. Tomorrow morning in Boston, the sun rises at 7:17. My watch says 7:17, sun rises. So while it's 7:17, it's 7:18 somewhere further west, 7:19 somewhere further west. Somewhere the sun is rising, right? It's only one sun. But somewhere the sun is rising. 24 hours a day, somewhere the sun is rising. The sun is always rising. Sun is rising, sun is rising. The event of sunrise here is over, but the sun is always rising. Similarly, Krishna's pastimes of appearance taking place in this universe, as Krishna is making his appearance here, he's getting ready to make his appearance in another universe. And as he appears in that other universe, in another universe, he's getting ready to make his appearance in that other universe, like the sun rising. He's always taking birth. It's Nitya Lila. Far out explanation, isn't it? Far out explanation. Now in Goloka, in Krishna Loka, there's no birth. Does Krishna take birth in Krishna Loka? Mother Jasoda feels motherly affection because that's her Bhav. She feels Krishna's my son. But there's no birth pastime. But the birth pastime is a pastime that takes place in the material realm, and it's the eternal pastime. In lifting of Govardhan Hill, it's an eternal pastime, and all of Krishna's pastimes are eternal pastimes. Because somewhere he's lifting Govardhan Hill. Somewhere he's swallowing a forest fire. Somewhere his pastimes are going on eternally with his eternal associates. It's mind-blowing. We can't the mind doesn't okay, that sounds nice. How do you hold that in your mind? It disappears. Because the mind can't understand that which is transcendental. So we shouldn't try to understand through our mind. The mind is material, and Krishna's activities are not material. So how do we understand them if we don't understand them with our mind? We understand through hearing, and when that sound vibration touches the seat of consciousness, the soul, then some light comes on. We can see and understand what we otherwise can't see and understand. The devotees realize that the Lord contains everything. Then the idea that the Lord manifests or is illuminated by others is also refuted with the words adhyatma deepaha. Deepaha means light or lamp. Adhyatma. Rather, you illuminate our intelligence. Like Brahman, you reveal yourself. No one can deceive you. Adhyatma means depending upon the self. Thus, the word can mean Atmarama. You also illuminate even Atmaramas. You give them joy by having them experience the highest bliss. Okay, we're done for this evening. There's one more paragraph. The verse shows that the Lord's form is superior to Brahman. How is that? The word sakshat indicates very clearly the difference. Sakshat means directly. So all this is in reference to going way back to Vasudeva glorifying Krishna in the prison house of Kamsa. He sees the form and says, you are directly Sakshad, the Supreme Lord. I'm seeing you, and Sakshad, you're the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord means you're the source of everything, and everything is within you. And so you're coming as my son, but I'm also realizing by seeing you that you are the Supreme Lord. Very kindly, by your own arrangements, moved by the prema of us to become our son. With Vasudeva and Devaki, they offer prayers. Yasoda and Nanda never offer prayers because they don't see him as God. Vasudeva and Devaki have this combination of divinity and parental affection. So they're in this divided space. They're seeing his divinity. He's speaking his divinity, but he's also saying, you've come as my son. But he understands it's not an ordinary son. And even Krishna said, I've showed you my forearm form so you won't make the mistake of thinking I'm just your son. Because if I just came in a little baby form, that's what you'd think. Here I am, forearm form. See? Club, disc, conch, and lotus. And crown, and, Narayan. Eyeball. So you won't mistake me simply to be your son. But he has, at the same time, he has parental affection. That's the soul's relationship with the personality of Godhead. So it's very interesting. And it's quite different than Nanda and Jasoda. Their love is so strong, they don't even think about these things. It's not like they don't have capacity or they're just simple village people. It's because of their affection. Their affection is so strong, they can't think otherwise. Even he shows them otherwise, they can't think otherwise. He shows Mother Jasoda the universe within his abdomen. And and she's holding him on her lap. She's holding the universe on her lap, or the person within whom is the universe on her lap. She sees it. She gets bewildered, says different things, and wherever he is, I have to feed him as my son. Or he shows Nanda Maharaj and the elders of Vraja the spiritual world they wanted to see. After the pastime with the agents of Varuna stealing, kidnapping Nanda Maharaj, Krishna rescues him, brings him back. Nanda says what he saw. They start wondering, who is he? We'd like, if he is God, we'd like to see his abode. Maybe he'll be very kind and show it. So they didn't say that to Krishna, but Krishna knew they were thinking like that, so he decided, I'll show them. So he took them to some place by the river Jamuna and showed them. And they were, wow. And then the Yogamaya curtain closed and they forgot everything. Because they can't hold in their heart his divinity. Because their heart is so filled with sweetness. That's the distinction between the residents of Vrindavan and those who are outside of Vrindavan. And those that visit Vrindavan, like Uddhava, Brahma, and the Brahma Vimohan Lila, they're overwhelmed with the kind of love that exists in Vrindavan. Narada, same thing. Narada also visits Vrindavan. He also visits Dwarka. But he's amazed. He doesn't feel eligible for the love of the residents of Vrindavan. He's just amazed. Akrura is another. Akrura's in Mathura, and he understands Krishna's divinity. And when he visits Vrindavan, he also goes, wow, these residents of Vrindavan, they're topmost. So the residents of Vrindavan have that special feature. Yashoda has that to the max. The motherly affection of Yashoda. And then that's one part, the part that we're spending all this time on is, who is it that's the object of her love? Who is it that she's trying to bind with rope? Something that's of this world, trying to bind something that's beyond this world. Or even, a piece of rope that can go around the universe. Where's that rope? Because within him is the universe. Where's the rope big enough to go around the universe? And who's she anyway? She's, a nice lady. Queen, but she's able. So it's these two things. The fullness of her love, the strength of her love, the power of her love, and the object the object of love, and his transcendental nature. And his transcendental form and transcendental activities. Okay, so I hope I didn't lose you with all of this philosophy. There's one more session of philosophy tomorrow morning, and then we'll go back to the pastimes. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah. Radha's got her hand raised. Give that little girl the microphone. And watch, she's going to start her sentence without saying
I have two questions.
Two questions.
Yeah. My first one is, Mother Yashoda more fortunate that she does not know that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead
Is she more fortunate than whom?
than Devaki and Vasudev?
Then?
Devaki and Vasudev.
Yes and no. They're both perfect. So those who are perfect, can we say there's perfect, more perfect, most perfect? As long as we understand that they're perfect, then the answer is yes. Okay.
My second question is, why is there so much philosophy in one, I would say, cute story of Lord Krishna? Because usually there aren't philosophy in nice kiddish stories. I mean, it's not a kiddish story, but it's, fun.
Yeah, I got your question. One of the reasons is to take us to transcendental reality. That is to say, the person who she's binding is not just fun. It's the nature of transcendence is involved in the fun. There's happiness, there's joy, there's exhilaration in parental affection, especially those who have children, to see the loving exchange, to meditate on the loving exchange between Krishna and Yashoda, and what Krishna does and what Yashoda is feeling. Mothers can only imagine, because this is God, and Yashoda is a pure devotee of God. But it's stimulating loving sentiments, parental affection kind of loving sentiments. So the philosophy is to elevate it once again to transcendence, or say the same thing a different way. The first 9 cantos help us properly understand the 10th canto. So there's philosophy, there's pastimes also in the prior cantos, first 9. But the foundation for understanding Krishna properly is in the first 9. So right in the middle of this fun pastime, there's a description of transcendence, so we don't lose track of transcendence. And we again are not in the just enjoying a nice story, but who is it that Mother Yasoda is binding? And how is it possible for a living entity to bind God? We don't find anything like this in Vaikuntha. Narayan doesn't have a mother. Narayan doesn't have a mother chasing him and catching him from behind. Narayan doesn't have his waist bound with a rope by anybody. Because of the pastime sweetness feature, we must not forget the transcendental feature, so that the philosophy is there to help us, right even in the midst of the sweet pastime, to be reminded of transcendence.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I just wanted to correct my understanding. In Dwarka, Krishna expands into 16,108 so that he can be with each of the queens at the same time and simultaneously. Uh, my understanding is he didn't do that with um, Mother Yashoda and Nanda, like expand and be with them as well at the same time, is to enhance the sweetness in the mood of separation, is what I thought, or that's what my understanding is. I just wanted to correct my understanding.
Verify. Not
Yeah,
correct.
verifying my understanding. Yes.
I don't understand your question. I understand the Dwarka part, but I don't understand the Vrindavan part.
So if he could expand in Dwaraka to 108,
Yeah.
why not he expanded himself um, in with the Madhur Yashoda and Nanda? I mean, he didn't return back. They say he didn't return back, and they had the separation. Even the gopis were, in the mood of separation. Why not he could expand even in this place as well, like when he went to Dwaraka? Or I don't know if I.
He sometimes left Dwarka too. And they would feel separation. It's mentioned specifically in the section of the 10th canto where the solar eclipse takes place, and they express, we feel great separation when Krishna goes away to this place, that place. Same question. If he can expand himself, why did he can just go away and stay at the same time? Because there's Lila of separation.
Raj, when we talk about Brahman, generally that refers to three kinds of Brahman: the Mahat Brahman, Jiva Brahman, and the Para Brahman. But then when we
generally, when the term Brahman is used, it's referring to
that's what I was going
the
to,
impersonal Brahman.
because when we say quality less, then Para Brahman is not quality less. So therefore,
Well, it's free from material qualities. Hey, settle down back there. Thank you. Free from material qualities. That means that's quality less.
generally Para Brahman is directly referring to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of
Correct.
Godhead.
Yes, Bhagwan feature.
And when we refer to as undifferentiated qualityless Brahman, that's generally referring to energy of the Supreme Lord. So I'm just clarifying here that when the qualifier is not there, whether it is Para Brahman or Mahat Brahman or Jiva Brahman, generally it refers to Mahat Brahman. That's the understanding I'm getting, at least in the description.
I'm not understanding your question. Did you understand his question? She didn't either. So do it a little in pieces.
Okay.
Break it up in pieces.
Okay. So when we refer to as Brahman in general, when we are reading Brahman, in our mind we should immediately process it as referring to Mahat Brahman.
No.
Is my understanding correct?
No.
Okay.
It's when we read Brahman in scripture, in Prabhupada's writings, generally it's referring to the impersonal Brahman, not Mahat Brahman. Mahat Brahman refers to the total material substance. So when we read Brahman, it's not referring to the total material substance. That's different. Not don't add another nomenclature. We'll go there afterwards. You can ask that afterwards. We'll just do this one. You can ask where does Virat Rupa fit into all this? But just for the time being, when we're reading scripture and we read the word Brahman, generally the way the Prabhupada would use, because different acharyas will use language in different ways, generally it refers to the impersonal Brahman feature of the Absolute, as in Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan. Mahad Brahman, generally, it refers to the totality of material elements. And Parabrahman refers to the Bhagavan feature.
I used to think that because Mahad Brahman refers to the totality of the material elements, that essentially is Krishna's energetic manifestation, and therefore that is the same as impersonal Brahman.
That's, you're taking the first part is fine, but you're making a big jump. It's not the same as.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would have the same name.
So
it has
then
a
we
different name because it's different.
then
And the
we would,
difference is the totality of the material elements or material energy is not the Brahmajyoti or the Sat feature of the Absolute Truth. So,
okay.
Like Pradhan is another nomenclature of the totality of material elements, is just describing different state or stage or aspect. Pradhan is the unmanifested totality of the material elements, material energy, Prakriti. Mahad Brahman is referring to something else. I mean, it's a different aspect of what one might say, well, this is that, and just nomenclature, but nomenclature is important. It's an aspect of the Supreme. That's Mahad Brahman, the totality of the material energy.
So in that case, would it be better to say that when we refer to as either Jiva Brahman or Mahad Brahman, what that is resting on is what is commonly referred to as Brahman, because that is the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, and that effulgence is what is referred to
I
as.
thought you were going to say Parabrahman instead of Brahman.
So there is Parabrahman, and then the bodily effulgence of the Parabrahman is what is the impersonal.
So Mahad Brahman is resting within that, yes. As a cloud is resting within the sky.
I'm just trying to put all of these pieces together.
I
There's
understand
Jiva
what you're
Brahman.
trying to do, and be careful. That's what I'm trying to say. Terminology, it's a little bit like a Venn diagram where there's some overlap, and so you can say this is this, or this is that. But this circle and that circle aren't the same, although there may be some overlap. So be careful. This term means this, and that term means that. And there may be some overlap of what the terminology is indicating. But the terminology is for some purpose. It's making some distinction. So you want to see the connection. Okay, there's distinction. What's the connection? What's the overlap? That's...
Because based on this discussion, there appears to be now 4 Brahman. In the sense, we talked about Parabrahman, we talked about Jiva Brahman, we talked about Mahad Brahman, and then we are talking about the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth Brahman, which is the effulgence of the Parabrahman and the resting place for the rest.
That's 4.
Okay. That's
and
where
the living entity has its place in the Brahmajyoti, because the Brahmajyoti is, using Prabhupada's explanation over and over, it's particles of Brahman. he uses the example like light. There's particles of light. Modern science says, well, is light a wave or is it a particle? But leaving that aside, Prabhupada would repeatedly use this particle example. Light, there's particles of light. So there's a light. I'm looking at a light bulb in the ceiling over here. And there's particles of light emanating from the light bulb. So the Jivatma is particles of light. And their particles are lighter within it make up the Brahman. So there's the overlap. But the distinction is Brahman is the whole shebang. And the jiva is one little particle of the whole shebang. You have something more?
No, I think I'm good.
You're done.
Okay.
You have something over here. Okay, let's do this one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji. What is the difference between Paramatma and Bhagwan?
Oh, okay. Keeping it really simple because we're getting into this really not simple stuff. Paramatma is the localized and Bhagavan is the personal feature. So, all pervasive Brahman, localized Paramatma, Bhagavan is person. And the understanding is the localized and the all pervasive are both resting upon personal. They're aspects of personal. Say same thing a different way. If one has realized Bhagavan, included within that Bhagavan realization is his expansion in localized and all pervasive feature. We can't say the converse. If one may have realized the sunlight, but one is not necessarily going to know the sun god by realizing the sunlight. But one has realized the sun god, one has realized sunlight and his location, the sun god's location. So Bhagavan, in this way, is the complete realization of the absolute truth, and there's partial realization of the absolute truth. Okay? Paramatma is what is sought after by the yogis, and the yogis don't realize, they don't have experience of an interaction, relationship with the personal feature. They're just seeing the form of the controller of Prakriti within their heart. And they're absorbed in that vision in the mature stage. Okay, that's Paramatma feature.
So when yogi imagine that form, like while practicing this thing, as you are mentioning, so is this the right way for the yogis, or until they are not experiencing the God?
If the yogis are doing real yoga and not just some, modern aberration, they're fixing their mind on the form of Vishnu within the heart. They're searching for that, and then eventually it's revealed. The Shakti of the Lord reveals his form, and they see. And they're in trance, seeing that form of the Lord. That's the mature stage, when it's done properly. And that's the Ashtanga Yoga system. That's the Samadhi stage, final stage. Okay? Does that
Thank
answer?
you. Yes.
Okay. How about you? You have some thoughts on all of this discussion? You want any assistance in processing any part of it? Some further clarification on something, or how does this fit together with that? Okay. No pressure. How about your dad? Anything? You want to ask the Virat Rupa question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually, when Prabhuji was asking about Mahat Brahma, and I never heard actually all these concepts at all.
It's
like
right
that.
in Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah, but um,
chapter 14. You'll find it in chapter 14.
oh, okay.
Mahad
Mahat,
Brahma is mentioned in chapter 14, Bhagavad Gita.
so,
Mahad Brahma refers to the totality of the material elements.
yeah, that means I did not understand properly, even though we are reading.
Okay.
Yeah. So my question is, what is the main? Is there any resemblance between that Mahat Brahma versus Virat Swarupa? Because as I heard, it is a total object within the Mahat Brahma, right?
Not
So-
exactly.
Oh, okay.
You want to know what's the Mahad Brahma and how does it relate to
Virat,
Virat Rupa?
yeah.
What is the Virat Rupa, excuse me, and how
uh,
does it relate to Mahad Brahma? That's what you want to know.
right.
The topic of Virat Rupa is not at all easy to understand. Take it from me. It's not easy to understand. And there's different depictions of the Virat Rupa that are not the same. There are different vantage points of the same thing, but the description is quite different. Virat means universe and Rupa means form. So it's the form of the universe. But it's seen and depicted in different ways at different times. So stepping back from, whatever, because I didn't go into what those different depictions are. It's the form of the universe, and it's temporary. Whereas Krishna's forms, his spiritual forms, are not temporary.
Yeah.
So that's a contradiction. Is it a form of Krishna or not? Because Krishna's forms are eternal, and the Virat Rupa is not eternal, so how can we say it's a form of Krishna? It's a form of Krishna,
Right.
but it's not eternal. It's in this category of its own, just like the universe is created, it stays for some time and it's withdrawn. The form of that universe is the Virat Rupa. It's something like, it's likened to a blueprint. So I'm not a contractor, but I understand that architects make a plan, it's approved by the developer, and then they make a blueprint, and then the construction guys work off a blueprint. So something like that. The Virat Rupa is a blueprint. Each morning, because at night Brahma takes rest. And when he takes rest, there's a partial annihilation. Correct?
Yep.
And so that means all the planets below Maharloka, they're dissolved. And they have to be recreated. So part of what Brahma does in the morning, he does his sadhana, and he meditates on the blueprint.
Right.
He takes that impression of the form of the universe and he recreates it. As he did the first time, then he does the second time, he does through it's all of his life. He's rebuilding the universe, at least the lower portion, according to the blueprint, or to match the universal form. That's what the universal form is. It's a we can call it, it's called in some places as a conceptual form.
I understood.
Conceptual means it's in the mind.
When you
It's
said
not physically tangible, but it's conceptual.
Yeah.
And it's a form. And he builds the universe accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I got it, Prabhu Maharaj. Exactly, I got it now. When you
Well,
said
there's
this
more to it. You didn't
blueprint-
get it all yet because there's
Yeah.
more to it.
I mean, the understanding wise, when you said this blueprint, yeah, we got it.
Okay.
That's what actually
Okay.
connected me there, what it is.
So when you look at a blueprint, it's not a building.
Right.
Later, there's a building that was modeled after the blueprint.
Yeah.
And before even the blueprint, there was the concept of what kind of a building would you like, sir? And then the people make the architectural plan, it gets approved, and they make a blueprint with all the specs. The
Yeah.
blueprint isn't just like, it's got every last little detail,
Right. Yeah.
the electrical and the plumbing and
Yeah. In general, I work in software. We have in projects blueprint. We do.
okay, so
I
you know
got that.
you know the term. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the Virat Rup.
Yeah.
It is a form, but it's not an eternal form.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks, Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. One more question.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I forgot that to ask.
You're our host. We're here for you.
Yeah, now I got it. Actually, my other question is basically when Krishna was disappearing from this material world, he went back. So then he disappeared as a Krishna. So now I got it. This is actually a form, Bhagwan. And
Yeah.
he came back. Okay, I got that. I
But-
got the answer.
But there's manifest and there's unmanifest.
Right, yeah.
So when he performs his pastime, that's manifest. But he's always present in Vrindavan, in unmanifest. He's always present in Vrindavan.
Right.
He never leaves Vrindavan. He's never born, but he makes birth. And he disappears, but he's eternally there. Just goes from a manifest to unmanifest state.
In the Bhagavatam, in the first chapter, so everybody, all these saintly people assembled in Naimisharanya.
Yes.
So their first question is, Krishna went back to his abode. So whom do we go and ask when we got a doubts or anything?
And the answer is Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
That's
the
what-
answer. That's the answer. That's given by the sage, by Sutta.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. Is it online?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. First question is from Dhanum Jayalu, Prabhu.
Who?
Dhanum Jayalu,
Okay.
Prabhu. Please explain about the importance of offering ghee lamp.
The importance is the devotion with which you offer the ghee lamp. It's an opportunity to offer what is already Krishna's back to Krishna. It's a gesture that's part of Vedic culture, Vedic ritual, that provides us an opportunity to offer to Krishna what is Krishna's. It's a gesture of offering with love.
Next question from Dhanam Jayalu, Prabhu is, are Satyavrata Muni in Damodara Ashtakam and Satyavrata Maharaj in fish avatar the same?
No.
Okay. Next question is from Giridhar Votikota, Prabhu. Damodara Lila is the sweetest of all sweets. Love of Mother Yashoda is very elevated and transcendental. Can we meditate while doing our chanting and other spiritual activities?
Well, when you're chanting, you better pay attention to your chanting. But when you're doing your other activities, for sure. Now, it's not an error if Prabhupada explains like this: if thought of Krishna's pastimes enter the mind while you're chanting, it's not a no-no. However, the attention should not go away from the sound of the name. And because the next thing you know, you're thinking of something other than pastimes. So your attention should stay with the name. It will happen naturally. Next.
Please help us understand what we can meditate as a sadhaka devotee.
Well, start with the name. You asked this question about meditating upon form. Meditate upon the form of the name, because the sound is form, not has form or leads you to form, but the sound is form. Now that's a transcendental realization, but stay with the name. What's that? What your meditation should be as a neophyte? The sound of the name. Sound of the name. Hear the sound of the name. Meditate through the hearing the sound of the name.
Next question is from Amara Mataji. Sometimes when deep-rooted conceptions are uprooted, one may get in the realm of self-doubt and might lose self-confidence. How to process when convictions are shaken?
The nature of the question I find to be has some essential misconceptions. The nature of the question is, and if you hold some convictions and you find them to be not correct conviction, you're not lost. You found yourself. You do a course correction. And something that's there to guide you is like a GPS, is the scripture. You have Bhagavad Gita and you have Srimad Bhagavatam, you have spiritual teachings, and you do a course correction. When you've understood that you had you're holding some conception that was erroneous, you do the course correction program. Just regularly go to the scripture and do your course correction program.
I don't think this is a question, but more like a comment. Hare Krishna Maharaj, why understanding... No, it is a question. Why understanding Bhagwan feature is more difficult to conceive than Brahman?
It's not more difficult to conceive than Brahman. Read chapter 12 Bhagavad Gita and you'll find it's exactly the opposite. It's more difficult to conceive of the impersonal than the personal. That's it? Okay.
One more question on the chat.
Does the Damodara Lila happen every time Krishna manifests?
Prabhu, can you speak on this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is a question from Sanchari Dasi. Guru Maharaj, does the Damodar Lila happen every time Krishna manifests his Vraja Lila pastime, or they unique to each manifestation?
I think we'll have to wait until the next day of Brahma to find out. In other words, I don't know. The scripture does not give us that information. Generally speaking, the information that we have is the pastimes of Krishna are repeated but variegated. They may appear slightly different in different appearances of the Lord, but the theme or the bhava is there in each time, with variations on the theme. So exactly what happens next time and previous times and every time is not described other than what I just said. There's a bhava that's fulfilled. Krishna is enjoying a pastime. And how that pastime looks, how it plays out, may be variegated, but the bhava is fulfilled. More?
Seems like the software has a bug because of which it is not showing up the questions for me, while on the YouTube chat it is showing up. So really apologize for missing out on the questions. So this question is from Apurva Anand Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, can we offer ready-made snacks without onion, without garlic to Krishna? Being a student, it is difficult to find time to do every service, as main service as of now is to study for the pleasure of Krishna.
It's doable, but not ideal. The problem with saying it's okay is it then becomes the norm. And one is not thinking about Krishna, one is thinking about convenience instead of Krishna. So it's doable, but it's not ideal. And don't become accustomed to it. That's it?
That's it.
Okay, we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.